All right, let's break it down for him. So, yes, I think that the Fed, oh man, now I got a chart for you, but okay, let me just speak to it. Fed will start cutting next year, possibly. Doesn't mean that they have to. They can keep them flat and even do one more raise before they break something, and then yes, number one could happen because bond yields are going up still. Which let's not go into that right now. It's not good when bond yields are going to go up that high because it makes the dollar more expensive, makes gas more expensive. But eventually things get too expensive and you break them out, the average consumer and the average laborer. So like if you break those guys, then your economy stops working. So that's when they cut, right? And that's when they print. And then I think this halving, and I want to hear your opinion too. I don't think the halving is going to keep having the same effect. I don't think this halving is as important as past halvings because the amount of supply that's coming off really is inconsequential compared to the amount of supply that's getting taken off exchanges. That's a bigger factor to me than the halving because they've been able to minimize the cost to produce Bitcoins due to like advances in energy production and advances in the ASIC hardware. So like the cost to produce is way lower, and I think like again that supply dynamic on exchanges is going to be a bigger deal.
I've never treated the halving as a technical like price should go up. I've never thought people would treat it that way, even though technically there is the tokenomics part. I've always looked at it as a sentiment wise and an event and a jump start, a reason, a thing people could tell their board or their investors or otherwise to be like, hey, this is a thing, and it's kind of like that not shared delusion, but like shared ideal of, oh, this is a thing that could be good for price, or could be kick off some sort of investment. So I've never looked at it as the tokenomics matter that much, even though technically they do. I've always looked at it as what most people think is the sentiment around it and the reason to go do something. That's the way I've always looked at it.
And then in terms of the ETF, so there's a chart that shows you what happened when the gold ETF came out, and gold just went just up and to the right. It went bananas. And so if we can expect the same thing on an ETF approval for Bitcoin, it really opens the door. It's like basically like there's like a dam, and there's all this built up water in there, like our money. And as soon as those doors open up, all that money is going to flow into Bitcoin. It's just going to pump the price to the sky. And but it's the last call. I'm kind of sad because then that's it, man. There's no real other thing that can really make Bitcoin move besides just scarcity and like fear of not having any Bitcoin and people basically pushing it up higher because there's a shortage of it, which could happen in the future if the whole world gets on board and behind Bitcoin and like sees it as a requirement to hold some. Then you'd get that, but this ETF thing is probably the biggest thing that's going to come in the near term. Might be the last big thing to come. So I definitely could see that.
The mainstream. Do you think anyone? I guess it's like, will enough people get it? Will enough people be like, this sucks. Is what's going on. It's not good right now. I need an alternative. Does that happen every cycle a little bit more, or do you think people just get tired of it, or there's just not enough critical mass on point number 4?
So I'm reading that one, and I don't think de-dollarization is. I just don't. I don't think it's a good narrative anymore. Like, I think a better one is debasement of currency. That's like the better, because the dollar will be around for 50 more years. It's more about. I mean, I guess it's the same thing seen a different way. I just see it as the debasement of fiat. So as those things become more and more worthless, the world is going to choose Bitcoin, right? Or crypto. I think that's kind of what we would agree on with that one.
Yeah, I thought about this today too, just in general of why people even get into crypto. And it's just like, there's just so much money to be made. It really does come down to that. We can come up with all these fancy reasons and analysis and economics and stuff. And it's like, if you're a capital allocator, you're an investment firm, if your job is to make a lot of money and you have a lot of money to play with, you got to be looking at crypto and like, hey, like here is where it's going to happen for the next decade or two. Like the stock. We've exhausted the stocks. We've exhausted other pieces and metals and stuff like that. Crypto is the thing that has the staying power and has the most gains to be made. So if you just strip everything else out, that's what I think. It's like they just see money and they're like, yep, it's go time, that sort of thing.
Yep, and I think it's out of that necessity, right? Because there's a certain necessity to, just in finance alone, where like you have to outpace inflation and you have to outpace the price increases of goods and services somehow. Otherwise, you're getting behind. Like every day, everybody wakes up to go to work, and just people's work looks a little different depending on where they're at in life and what they're up to. But everybody's playing the same game, which is how can I outpace inflation of the dollar? And so that partly leads into de-dollarization, because it's going to be a choice by the people to go for the thing that's the safer, longer term, fixed supply, things like that. The tokenomics, right? The need for crypto as an investment vehicle more than anything.
And number 5, Bitcoin is bad for the environment. Yeah, are we going to keep hearing that, or is it going to go away? Is there going to be another product presented as an alternative, like, oh, Ethereum's the good one now, or is it going to be like, all right, that's maybe not as important as it used to be?
I don't think it's going to stop the Bitcoin price from going up. So I guess it does. It's kind of like a broken talking point, because people can say it, but they're not the ones that can do anything to the chart, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like it's a pointless, no amount of that's going to stop the finance industry from getting in. They care about their bottom line. Like look at pollution and industry, for example. They're investing in companies that pollute every day, but that doesn't stop them.
That's what you get, sir. You get that for that comment. Okay, how dare you?
Yeah. Well, and again, so the counter to that is like, okay, it's true. Some people produce Bitcoin on really inefficient means, but the general 70% of it's being mined on like natural gas, which is a waste product, burned. Then yeah, Rick rolled, baby. Natural gas, biogas, hydropower. So there's all these other cheaper, more efficient ways to mine that it's becoming stupid to mine it with fossil fuels. And so it's really not that bad for the environment. It actually encourages and promotes converting waste electricity into monetizing it, right? It's monetizing waste. That's where Bitcoin's moving. So I just don't agree with that point at all. On being a miner, and for 4 years, I know that space inside and out, and I know what's most profitable, and what's most profitable is something that's good for the environment, which is like they go toward that whole narrative.
I would be more apt to believe people about the whole environment thing if they didn't immediately get on an airplane right afterwards and fly around the world.
Crypto Sloth made a good comment here. I like this because again, the 21 million millionaires that can't get a BTC per person, and that it's not going to take 21 million millionaires to get the look at how much Grayscale has. Look how much Michael Saylor has. Look how much MicroStrategy has. Look how much the U.S. government has. Like many of the millions of Bitcoin is getting, look how much Satoshi has. So there's already 5 or so million that's lost or in the hands of diamonds. There's less than, I would say there's 6 to 7 million that are you could even convince someone to sell at this point. And there's not enough coming out over the next 100 years to replace it. So it really is a one-way train to $100,000 Bitcoin at some point.
Only 100K. One day.
That's what I'm safe to say. It might not even be this cycle because there's so much money to be made between 15K and 80 or 90K. So we'll see.